Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Tawana Rivers. This is the 10K Project, and here we are again for another Bet on Black pitch, where we love a little on one of our Black founders and help them get the capital that they need to take their business to the next level. I want to introduce you this evening to Aja, excuse me. I knew I was going to say it wrong. I had it right all night. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Aja. I even wrote it and put the line under the A like it's A, not A. So, I want to introduce you to Aja. Aja is with Trella Technologies. She's going to tell us all about that in a moment. I want to first welcome you all here to the 10K Project. We are super excited to have you this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share the campaign page so that I can just walk you through the offering. If this is your first Bet on Black pitch, we do this so that you can learn to navigate all of the various portals that we visit. Again, making your ability to invest just that easier. So that if you don't have to fumble around on where to go, then again, removing a barrier of entry. All right. So let me share my screen. Can you all see the campaign page? All right. So as you can see, this campaign is on WeFunder. And Aja has already raised $103,863 of her goal. You guys know I get excited when I see early bird terms are still within reach, right? Because if we can get preferential terms, why would we not, right? If you're going to invest in this anyway, then you might as well invest in it early so that you can get the better terms. So it looks like there's about $43,000 roughly left in the early bird terms. So please consider not wasting time if this is something you want to add in your portfolio. The minimum investment is $250. This is a convertible note. So as you guys know, we've talked about this, convertible notes start off as, a loan, so to speak, and then it converts to equity at a later date, right? You can see all the information about the campaign page. I tell you all the time, it's important to look at every single thing on the campaign page. The founders spend a lot of time and energy making sure they add everything you need to know about the campaign. And so it's only fair to them to read through everything, right? Once you read through everything, you can look at updates, the details, overviews, what people are saying about the project or the founder. And then the part of the campaign page I love is where you can ask an additional question. So tonight, obviously, we're going to be asking questions directly. So that's a wonderful privilege that we're able to have here. But you may think of something else later to ask that you didn't ask. And then, so here's where you want to do that on the Ask a Question section of the campaign page. The other reason I like this section is that you get to see what other people are asking. And a lot of times people will ask questions that you may not understand or would have thought about. And so here's a good opportunity and a good place to first learn something else about the project, but then also be able to see the questions and answers that other investors are asking as we're learning to be savvier investors. This is always very, very helpful. Right? There are also some investor perks that you can look at here. And then I love the video on this page also. So if you have a little time after we're done, as you're doing your due diligence, make sure you watch the video and look at the campaign page. All right, so with that said, I'm going to stop sharing. And then Aja, I'm going to turn this over to you, my dear. The floor is yours. And you're on mute.
There
you go.
There we go. You should be able to see my screen in the...
We can.
Okay, excellent. Good, good, good. So thank you very much, Tawana, and to the 10K Project community. I'm thrilled to be here, happy to be able to share what we've been up to as a company. This is a project that has started way back in 2016 and has now become a benefit corporation as of 2022. But what we've developed is a way to automatically train tall plants to grow in short, small spaces. Our flagship product is what we call Trella Grow LSD. So I'll be walking you through what that product is and our business model and the ask. But before I jump into that, I like to always just start with a little bit of why did we even decide to create something that would train a tall plant to grow in a short, small space. Well, it actually started with my experience as a medicinal cannabis grower. I live in Massachusetts. That's one of the states where cannabis is legal to be grown, both commercially and residential. And in 2015, I started watching the industry, and I knew that there was a space in it for me. But I'm an engineer by degree, and I always thought I don't want to just go in and become another, cannabis grower or a cannabis reseller. I want to use my engineering and my tech skills. So I decided to start growing on my own. But I also traveled a lot at the time. I traveled probably for a week at a time every month. I was gone for about 5 to 7 days. And when you're growing something, anybody out there that might be a gardener or a farmer, you have to tend to the plants. It's not just plant the seed and walk away. There's some maintenance required. And especially when you're growing indoors and you're growing really large plants, you really have to be on top of it. So I had things inside of my grow area to help me with controlling the lights while I was gone, help me to control the fertilizer, the water, the HVAC, but I did not have anything that could help me control how tall the plant would get while I would go away for days at a time. Sometimes I'd come back and the plants would be growing up into the lights. So I thought, I wonder if there's a solution out there on the market. Did some research and found out that no, there isn't. So I got together with a friend of mine who's also an engineer. He's the co-founder of Trella Technologies. We decided, is this something that we can, try to solve, find a solution to? And we got started. But before we got started, we ran into an angel investor who thankfully, told us, pump your brakes. This sounds like an invention. What's the product? What's the company idea? So we did some research, and now I can, put together something and present to show you exactly the market that we're going at. So as you see on the screen right now, we've got, some vertical farming here on the left. We've got cargo containers on railroad ships in the middle, and we also have a NASA shuttle. And our goal is to figure out, how can you grow tall, fruit-bearing, big, substantial plants in small spaces such as this, especially when you don't have people available, manpower. So we needed to make sure that it was automated. So to share a little bit more about exactly the market that we're going into, we are targeting the cannabis market, the cannabis industry. As most of you already know, it's a cash crop. There's a lot of momentum there from a financial perspective. So that's where we focus a lot of our energy, is targeting people that are cannabis growers. But we also found out through some research at the very beginning that the vertical farming industry has a similar problem as well. Not just growing cannabis, but growing all types of plants. Vertical farming are, and I'll show you some pictures on the next slide. When I say vertical farming, I'm talking about stacked farming, where you have plants that are growing on multiple levels, one on top of another. Sometimes just 2 levels, sometimes, all the way up to 8. It depends on the situation. But when you stack plants on top of another, you create a height restriction. You create you only have a certain amount of space that plant can grow before it hits the light. So we thought, this is probably a really great solution for those growers that are looking to do vertical stacked growing. And as you also know, there's a huge, you may know, and if not, I'll share with you, that there's also a real big energy consumption problem with indoor farming and indoor growing. So whatever we developed, we wanted to also make sure that it tackled, the issue of trying to control a plant in a small space when you don't have a lot of, human capacity. But we also wanted to focus on, how can we reduce the energy consumption in order to do so. So we were trying to really, solve 2 problems in one. So right now, what growers are doing in these short, tight spaces are 2 things. They're either growing the plants really short, just grow them short, get the most you can get out of them and move on to the next, or what they're doing is called plant training, manual plant training. And you can kind of see a little bit of an image here of a gentleman trying to cutting away at the plants. You have people inside of some of these cultivation facilities doing this all day. And just to show you some other pictures of exactly what I'm talking about and the types of spaces that we're trying to work within. You have people that are growing on multiple levels, and you can see here some people standing on yellow scaffolding to get to the next level. You got other situations where people are working in multiple levels and in tight spaces. So this is the type of, and then you've got multiple levels here, a lot of different levels that people are working with. This is the type of space that we're trying to work within, tight spaces. And this can even be not just inside of a warehouse, but it could also be inside of a railroad container. You may have seen some container farms out there. We're looking at that as well. Wherever you are, if you're going to do it by hand, it's going to require skill, some time, and definitely access. So these were things that we were also trying to solve, is the skill issue. You don't just find someone on the street, bring them in and ask them to start training your plant. There is some training that's required. And there's also a lot of turnover, especially in the cannabis cultivation space right now. So trying to find skilled workers is also a challenge. So what did we decide to do? We tried to figure out a way that we could automatically train a plant to grow in a tight space. And I'll show you, what that looks like, and we'll get into more detail. But here in this picture, you can see the product on the right. And then you can also see a little zoom in picture of one plant on the left. We were able to gain our patent in January of 2021. We started this back in 2016. We were able to get our full utility patent. We have a patent number, and we're also patent pending in 2 other countries outside of the United States. As I mentioned, who's Trella Grow LSD for? Well, it's for commercial indoor cultivators that are looking to either stack their plants on multiple levels, or maybe they're trying to be a lot more efficient with their energy costs. They're looking to scale, they're looking to be competitive. We've found that, if you're familiar with the cannabis industry, it started out in the West where there's lots of land. But now, as states are starting to come online and more people are starting to legalize it, we're finding that states like New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts are all opening the doors to cannabis cultivation. But these are states that have expensive real estate prices. If you're going to do a cannabis cultivation, get a cannabis cultivation license, you're going to have a hard time trying to find a lot of land. So people are finding small buildings, with small footprints. So a lot of people are looking at the fact that you're going to have to be vertical. You're going to have to utilize that vertical space versus being able to utilize, a lot of acreage. It's just not available like it used to be. So we're really keeping our eye on that space and how states are coming online. We're really only at the beginning in regards to the size of our potential market. But I do want to stress one thing. Well, I'll stress a few things as we go through it. But one of the things I wanted to stress is that this is not just a cannabis play. This is not just a cannabis play. This is not just a cannabis play. Cannabis is our starting plant. It's the plant that has a lot of cash behind it, a lot of research, a lot of there are budgets out there for us to start our marketing and getting the product out there and starting to learn about what the customers really want. But we also have our eyes on all different types of plants, anything that's fruit bearing, especially the market for plant-based protein. There are a lot of different types of plants that people are trying to grow. You may currently, if you look up container farming or vertical farming, you'll see a lot of microgreens, a lot of short plants, but people are trying to figure out how can we grow plants and really get a lot of those big leafy greens that we need for protein, like amaranth. Some people may know that as callaloo. But those plants have the leaves of those plants have a lot of protein. So trying to figure out a way that you can get a lot of those plants indoors on a commercial scale and allow for people to be able to take some of that plant matter away and come back, let the plant recover, and take some more so that you're reusing it is really beneficial. So not just the cannabis play. This is actually something that's for all tall plants. That's what we're going after. So the how does it work? How do we do it? We use a method called low stress training. And essentially what that means is you're bending the plant sideways or bending it in the configuration that you want. People have been low stress training for millennia. That method is not new. You can go online and find people doing crazy artistic creative things with the way that they bend and train their plants. But one of the things that commercial growers are doing is something different right now. They're actually cutting the bottom of the plant. They're growing the plants up towards the light. And what happens is the light can't penetrate all the way down to the bottom of the plant. So what they do is they cut away the bottom of the plant, because if the light won't get to the leaves at the bottom, you're really not going to have a great bounty. That's not going to be an area where you're going to get some real good flower. So instead of allowing the plant to waste its energy growing down in those areas, people decide, let's cut them. And it makes sense that is something that works. However, if you bend the plant sideways, you then allow the light to penetrate each and every branch, because you don't have a top that's blocking everything. You're laying it sideways, so every branch gets access to the light. And that way you don't have to cut away at the plant as much. You can keep a lot of that material on. That's called biomass. All of that biomass is very, it's worth money. You put a lot of energy into growing plants. You don't want to cut away all that biomass. So we're also trying to figure out how can we leave the plant intact so that we can get a lot from it. The other reason that we don't want to cut or trim at the plant as much is that it causes a little bit of stress. And as we all know, there's a limit. There's a little stress is good. It helps us with exercise, et cetera, and to build ourselves up to be able to perform. But when it comes to overstress, it can slow you down. It can impact how you function during the day. And plants are the exact same. They can have too much stress too. So when people, especially people that aren't trained well, go in and they cut the plant and they're a little bit too aggressive, too excessive, it slows down the growth of the plant. The plant takes a pause, tries to figure out what's going on, and then it starts growing again. But that's time, and time is money. So you really don't want to allow the plant to slow down your growth. You want the plant to grow as quickly as possible, as smoothly as possible, so that you can get to that harvest and have more harvest throughout the year. So that's another advantage. And then of course, it's the time that you spend doing all that work. The labor cost is a huge savings as well. So actually, I wanted to show a quick video of how that works. You should be able to see something that looks like a video now. This is a video before I press play. This is our version 5 prototype. We are now on version 7. So we've got version 5 here with the green ring. And then I also show you version 4 in the background. That was another version that we did. So we've been at this for a while, working on how to make this thing work just right. Let's refresh it. Sometimes when you wait too long, it times out on you. Apologies, everyone. Here we go. So this is a time-lapse video. And what we have is one plant. This is on each side. You've got one plant that's growing and filling out this space, and it's just being held to a certain height. And then at the end of that, we take off the top of that mesh and we let the plant stretch up towards the light and start to flower and become buds. I'll play that again just for anybody that might have missed it. So this green ring is what we call the apex ring. That's the apex is the top of the plant. So the top of the plant is trying to come up, but there are a group of sensors that are right there that are saying, no, at a certain point, we want to move you down this path. We don't want you to keep going up and hit the light. It's time to move. So there's some proprietary software and firmware that we had to develop in order to track how fast is the plant growing and to make sure that our unit moves at the same pace as the plant. So if you have one strain or one plant that grows slow, our technology will slow down and grow accordingly. But if you have another plant that grows faster, it can speed up. And this is version 5 and version 4. I mean, if you look at our other versions that I'll show you, they look a lot different, a lot lighter, easier to manufacture, easier to work with, et cetera. But we'll get into that. I talked a little bit about tracking the rate of growth. So we do have an application that's associated with this technology so that we can learn from it and optimize. So it starts with I've got 4 different stages: seedling, vegetation, flowering, and then the harvest. So the seedling is, you can see perhaps, and look, I can zoom in. Let me know if I need to zoom in just a little bit there. Might be better. The seedling is the beginning stage where the plant kind of goes up to the top of that green ring. And then over time, and this can be depending on the type of plant, depending on how you feed it, it could be 30 days, it could be 120 days, depends on the type of plant. But over time, this will move down this pathway and let the plant expand and build out its structure during the vegetation phase. So then you get to the vegetation phase. And then at the end of vegetation, it goes to the flowering phase where you let the branches stretch up towards the light. And that stretch period usually only lasts for about 2 weeks. The plant is getting ready for flowering. So it's giving it its all to build its structure. And then it's exhausted itself, it stops. And then the flowering begins. And you're ready for harvest, which is the last part here. Just to be clear on how that worked. But the application will track how fast that growth rate is occurring. So as that green ring is moving from one side all the way to the other, the app is tracking that. It's letting the user know how far along you are. It's giving you a rate of growth. It's also spitting out temperature, humidity, and CO2 so that you can figure out what type of environmental conditions produce the fastest growth. So if I want to repeat this and have it happen again, I know I need to turn my temperature or my humidity to a certain setting to make sure that I promote the quickest growth possible so that I can get to harvest faster and increase revenue. Some of the benefits of using our technology, and I touched on this just a little bit, but it's efficient. That trying to make sure that you're eliminating all of that time spent trimming, tying down the plant. It takes time, it takes skill. That's something that we're alleviating for our clients and our users. It's also tracking the rate of growth so that you can optimize, go back and figure out how to be more efficient. It allows people to be able to stack their plants, which is incredible, to be able to stack a plant that typically would grow 6 feet in height, but to be able to keep that to a level of 4 feet and to stack 4 feet on top of 4 feet. That's an incredible advantage for people that maybe didn't consider that they could do that before. So we're able to stack the height, and we're also we're a benefit corp as well, and we'll talk about that. But because we're a benefit corp, one of our benefits to community is to make sure that we create sustainable technology for indoor farming. And when it comes to not just what the product can do, but also how the product is made, we wanted to be very mindful about that as well. So we try to use materials that can be reused, recycled, aluminum framing. We do 3D printing, but we're very particular about the type of 3D printing plastic material that we use. We use a material called PETG. PET is like a water bottle. Most of our water bottles are made out of PET. PETG is just glycol. It gives it a little bit more strength. But that type of material can be ground up, recycled, respooled, and reused. So we wanted to make sure that we chose a plastic that wouldn't just wind up in a dump somewhere. It doesn't take a lot of energy to run our technology, and it also does reduce light energy costs a lot by 61%. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is something that we kind of stumbled upon back in 2018. We were doing version 4. If you can remember that video that I showed you, it was the one in the far back. We had we had some older style lights, and we had a bunch of lights that were placed over that prototype, from left to right. We probably had, I think, 4 different types of lights, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're standing there, and we're looking at the prototype at the very beginning of the grow. So that picturing on the left-hand side here, where you've got a plant that's just here, just a small little plant growing here. And we said to ourselves, why would we turn on all the lights over this entire space if the plant is still only right here? We're going to save on energy costs in our own lab. And then voila, you're going to save on energy costs for the customer and the client as well. So we decided to be more mindful about it and to figure out if we use individual LED bars, then we can really be more accurate and precise about when we turn the lights on, which really allows us to save a lot of energy over that time frame. So our goal was to figure out, for the same amount of area, this is the traditional method that people use at the bottom, where they just stack all the plants close together, turn on all the lights, and then wait for the plants to get to a certain height, and then they move them out of the space. What we decided to do is, try to match that. If we could get our plants to grow over that same time frame, and then just have the LEDs only go on as the plant truly needs it, we're going to cut down on energy costs tremendously. And this has been something that is, we've got a couple of different potential partners that want to try to do some grow trials and some testing with us to figure out, how precise can we get, and how can we take this part to the next level. So we're really excited about what we call our auto sync LED feature. So we always like to compare ourselves to our, competition. What's the competition doing? For us, it was a little different because we are the only automated plant training system out there. Like, I still sometimes, I'm like, wow, we're blessed that this idea was given to us, and that we were able to figure out a solution for it. But right now, what people are doing is they're doing most of it by hand or growing plants short. So that comparison is on the top. We've got our solution going all the way across the top. The second one is what people call sea of green. That's the short plants. That's when people are just growing them short, moving them, grow them short, move them. The next level is what they call screen of green, where they're trimming it, cutting the bottom, spreading it out. It's very labor intensive. So we've got Trella that's automated and can work for a lot of different plants. We've got Sea of Green that needs a lot of different plants and a lot of processing to get through the production. And then you've got Screen of Green that takes a lot of time. All in all, when you get to the annual yield at the very end, we come out on top, even when we're compared to Sea of Green. And Sea of Green doesn't take as long. It's only 1 month. But because you're growing the plants so small, you don't get as much from them. Screen of Green takes a lot longer, you get a little bit more, but it just takes way too much time and it takes a lot of labor. So all in all, Trella Grow LST helps to alleviate that labor cost and to get you a quick harvest so that at the end of the year, you're still ahead. All right. So this is a return on investment comparison that we did using, and just to be clear, this picture of me standing here, that's one plant that was grown in our Model 6. It's a cannabis plant. It was about 12 pounds in weight. It's a lot of people ask questions about it, so we can definitely delve in it if you like to. But basically what we're trying to do is repeat this in a container farm. So in this example, we've got Trella's system, and then we're comparing ourselves to Screen of Green. That's that labor-intensive, long time frame method that people are currently doing right now. And we're doing plant to plant, 48 plants using our system, and then 48 plants using the old traditional method. You're going to get more yield out of our system, mainly because you got more harvest per year. We're faster because we're low stress training, and we're allowing for that plant to grow as efficient as possible. So your end of the year revenue is a lot more. There is an upfront cost, of course, to doing something like this, and that includes the price of our product and our servicing. So we don't just ship these out and go, good luck. We want to work with our clients, with our customers, My background before I got into this is in consulting engineering. I was a natural catastrophe risk engineer, a consultant engineer. So going into my natural, my natural way of dealing with problem is to go to the location, figure out how can I really be of service, come up with a solution, and then deliver that solution and make sure it's implemented. So we're taking that same type of approach with how we deliver the product. So there's a product and there's a servicing charge as well. There's also a reduction on the LED and power consumption. That's about $4,000 in difference compared to screen of green and LEDs, but we wanted to put that in there. And then in your first year, compared to Trella Grow LST, you're at 368,000 compared to screen of green when you're at 267. And then the next year, you're even more because you don't have that upfront cost that you had to shell out in year one. So you're making your return on investment in about a year. What did we do to get here? So as I mentioned, we started in 2016. We developed a couple of prototypes. And you can see a couple of little pictures here of the prototype. And all of the slides that I'm showing you here, you can also see those on the WeFunder page as well. So if you want to pull that up and you want to kind of delve in a little bit more, you'll have access to all of these slides in our WeFunder page. But November is when we started. By April of 2018, we started our provisional patent. And while we were waiting for that, we continued to build more and to improve the design. We did a start engine regulation crowdfunding round back in 2019 where we raised some money. But to back up a little bit, in order to get to this process, we self-funded the co-founders. So it was myself, my co-founder, came out of pocket for about, I think, 120,000. And then the rest of it has been really the community, people like you who believe in what we're trying to do, who want to support us and want to see us move forward. So all of these little leaves, I was talking to my younger brother earlier, I call them hurdles that we had to get over. All these hurdles we were able to get over because of crowdfunding, because of the community. So thankful to any and everyone who just supports what we do. Really do appreciate that. We were able to accomplish a lot. By the time we hit November of 2020, we were working on the model that you currently see right now. And you can see some images of that all the way to the right. We were able to get our patent in January of 2021. We talked about that. That was a really great accomplishment. We were really happy about that. And then we started working on the application, the app, and the database in May of 2021. And then we had our first batch delivered just this January. So we had sales in 2021. We did have to go through COVID. We had to pivot a few times. We had to figure some things out. We had to change the way that we manufactured in order to deliver by January. But we were able to get it done. And we just dropped off another batch this Friday. So about the founding team, it's myself, Asia Atwood. I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, graduated from Northeastern University in Massachusetts. Had a couple of other entrepreneurial ventures before this. I was the CTO of another agricultural technology startup in 2013, 2014. I had my own company doing day trading software using Fibonacci cycles in the market. So I've always had my day job, my full time, and then knowing that eventually I always wanted to have my own company. So it was a process to get to this point, but I did start full time with Trella April of 2019. So before COVID, the timing was, I was like, ooh, I picked a good time, but we were able to get through it. My co-founder, Andres Chamorro, we call him Dre, he and I work really well together. This picture that you see of the two of us together was not posed. We were listening to somebody talk about, we were doing a customer feedback survey. That's what it was. And the gentleman was explaining some stuff and someone grabbed a picture of us just, standing there looking almost in sync. So we always like to show that picture that was not staged at all. Dre is incredibly intelligent. He has a background in robotics. Medical device industry is really his strong suit. That's where he came from. And basically, we work well together. We brainstorm all together. I would say, Dre, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm visualizing. And he was able to help with what do we need? What are the parts? How do we design it? He's got a lot of patents under his belt as well. He brought that experience to the team. We were able to get a really nice discount from a patent firm, Hamilton Brook Smith Reynolds in Boston. They're a really well-known firm. But he brought that to the table because he's been working with them for so long. We sat with them, told them what we were trying to do, and they gave us a 50% discount for their first 3 years. So thankful to Dre, thankful for his connections and for his support. He's an incredible co-founder. The rest of the team is here as well, and we've got a couple other people that do other things. It takes a lot to do what we're trying to do, and it's been 6 years. So there's been other people that have been part of this, but as it stands today, we have our board on the left-hand side. So that's Beth Waterfall. She's in the cannabis and public relations space. And she also helps with our own PR from time to time. She's also what's called our benefits director. As a benefit corporation, we have to write an annual benefit report. It has to be done by somebody who knows the company, but is not involved in the day-to-day. She handles that for us. Our other board member is Shalene Title. Shalene Title is a policy strategist and activist. She was also one of the first cannabis control commissioners in the state of Massachusetts. If you Google Shalene Title, she'll pop up. She's heavy in it and really knows her stuff. So we're really happy, and we're the only company as of now that she's on the board of after she left the commission. Abdul Riani is from Vision X Partners. He has a long history in startups and helping founders, inventors that have ideas, helping them take it to the market, trying to figure out how do you sell it, how do you grow it, and he can also help to maintain it as well. We've got our Hamilton Brook Smith Reynolds contact, Keith Wood, who helped out with our IP, and then we also have Katie Carrington of Carrington Legal, who's our corporate attorney. She's in Boston. The rest of the team is comprised of Matt Waddell. He's our project engineer. I worked with him previously. He came on board to help with this. We have Sehaitu Abie. She is a Philadelphia resident and helps out with our social media. Digital Nations, they help with sales and marketing. They're also our lead investor. So they invest and they also help with some sweat equity as well. And then we have some of the other team members, Joshua Bird, Denise, who's our operations manager, Sherry, who was community engagement, and then our electronic design engineer is a gentleman named Yuri Milgram. He helped with our software and our electrical engineering. So that's the team. And I talked a little bit about, the reason why we're doing what we're doing, a benefit corp. My background is a natural catastrophe risk engineer. I've seen floods, hurricanes. I've seen how they impact certain communities. I've seen how they impact our community. And one of the things that drives me to continue to do this is I have a real concern about our food supply. And specifically for people that are in areas that don't have access to being able to grow. We got to figure out how to grow everywhere. We have to figure out how to grow everywhere so that we can control what we're eating, what we're consuming, and make sure that we have access to it despite the fluctuations in climate, policy, all that stuff, trying to be sovereign, on our own. So that's one of the things that drive us. And we're also a benefit corp to make sure that mission of making sure that we do things sustainably for indoor farming stays no matter what. So we decided to become a benefit corp to make sure that was, solidified. We do have some R&D partnerships, people that helped us to figure out, how does the technology work? What can we tweak, et cetera. Terrapin Farms is a hemp farm here in Massachusetts that helped out with what we call our mother plant initiative. Mother plants are plants that have to grow big because they are the plants that people use to take cuttings from to grow other plants. So they're like the big mama plants for all the little baby plants. You want her to be able to grow big, and to be able to stack those types of plants indoors is key for cultivators. Building Audacity is a nonprofit. They're not in the cannabis space. They're in the other types of plants that we can grow space. So they've been helpful with us being able to figure out what else can we grow, like tomatoes and melons. We've also made relationships with Turtle Mountain Band, the Chippewa tribe, and also the University of DC, who will be helping us out with some of our R&D. And we have a few others that have come online that I don't have on the slide right now. So we have a huge opportunity for growth, and we definitely need some support and some additional resources in order to capture this. The market is huge. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on commercial cultivators. And when we say small commercial cultivators, we're talking 10,000 square feet to about 50,000 square feet in canopy space. That's what we're going after. In order to do so, we need support. We need help with production so that when we get these big orders, we can actually pump them out. And then we also need help with sales and marketing. As I mentioned, the two co-founders are engineers, myself and Dre. So sales and marketing was not our strong point. We had to find some people to help us out with that. And we've identified those partners in Vision Next partners and in Digital Nations, but that takes funding. It takes money to pay them to do ads and all that type of stuff. So this is the opportunity, but we need some capital to fuel us through this funnel. So in order to get to that sale, one of the things that we were also doing, and it's kind of a marketing strategy, is to enhance our consulting. We did some consulting in 2021, and we're finding that consulting is becoming a great marketing strategy to start those relationships with people who eventually want to also buy the product. So in 2021, you can see we've had revenue. 49% of that was in the consulting. About 51% of that was in product sales. And we also have an app as well. The app right now, because we want people to use it and we want to get the data in it, the app is currently free. We may put a subscription on that, but we don't see that as being a big ticket item. We see consulting helping with bringing the people through the funnel and also bringing in revenue. And then we also see product sales as our big ticket item, and servicing as well. We have three different models. We have the Model 4, which is more for what I would say production, just getting the plants through and getting to that harvest. We have the Model 6, which is great for the mother plants that I was talking about, those larger plants that you want to have grown. And then we also have our newest model that we just released, is the Model 4E. And the 4E is scaled down. It doesn't have as many of the bells and whistles, but it's great for people who really might just want to experience the method. They want to see, what does the plant do? How does it respond? So we decided to create another model to allow people to kind of enter into the Trella Grow LST experience without the huge upfront cost. And the great thing about the Model 4E is it can be upgraded at a later date. So we made sure that a Model 4E can become a Model 4 with a few additional parts added on. And we can assist with that, or we can send those parts out. And that's something that we're targeting 2023 to be able to do. That's a 2023 type of thing. So our projections, our 12-month projections, as you can see, this is, after we raise capital, we foresee having some about 40% of that through the consulting channel, through some revenue through that, but also still leaning heavily on product sales. 60% of that revenue will be from our product sales. We think the Model 4E will be the one that will take up a good chunk of that, because it's a great model to start with a lower barrier of entry. And then the Model 4 and the Model 6 will make up some of that as well. So you've got the numbers here on the right-hand side. We're sitting at about 2.3 that we're trying to reach. And in 2021, we were at 100,000, around $100,000 in revenue. For 2023, in order to get to this huge lofty goal of 2.3 million, we have about 76% of that market already in our sales funnel. It's just about working that and getting those those conversations and getting people on the phone. We have an email list that has been really helpful. We've been doing email marketing and LinkedIn, and we find that happens to be the channels that bring the most hot leads, the warmest leads to us to be able to close on. Great thing about this is we really only need about 3 to 5 customers in order to hit that level, because people need to buy multiple units, and especially when it comes to cannabis, the reason for the investment is there. In 36 months, I need to speed up a little bit, Tawana, my apologies. In 36 months,
You're
we're
okay.
looking at, thank you. We're looking at about a lot more of the product sales, where consulting will take more of a backseat. And a lot of that revenue will be coming in through product. The Model 4 and the Model 6 will take on a huge chunk of that as people start to transition from Model 4Es into Model 4s or Model 6s. And our goal is to get around that, I think we're at about 60, 65 or something like that on our projected sales in 2025. Lofty goals, but not impossible. The market is there. It's just trying to figure out, trying to get that capital so that we can work those funnels. And also to have the production capacity to be able to keep up with the demand. And that's something that we're already, we have conversations with now, is we don't want to overpromise people and not be able to deliver. So we're kind of, pumping the brakes on people from time to time until we can get some capital in. So anything you can do is extremely helpful, and we do appreciate it. The overall ask, just for the year, our goal is 2.5 million, to raise 2.5 in the next 12 months. A good majority of that will go to sales and marketing, as we talked about. We'll also need to enhance our manufacturing and our production. The great thing about that is we don't need a lot of heavy machinery and a lot of like high tech equipment. It's 3D printing, assembly, some injection molding. Those are things that we just need a 3,000 square foot space, some equipment in there, and some workers. So we're not looking to build a manufacturing facility. We also need space for our own R&D. We've been using either our R&D partner's space, or we use our own space to do grow testing. And it would really be nice to be able to expand that so that we can do multiple tests and not kind of just 2 tests at a time. We're kind of held to 2 right now, and we would like to be able to do more than that. The 2.5 will come from the regulation CF. So part of that will be from WeFunder. Right now, our first goal is at 535. If we hit that, we'd like to, re-up and extend that past up to 5 million. But the other thing we're doing, we're also talking to, VCs as well to see if they can help us get to that 2.5 million. So we're opening it up to accredited investors in the VC space. I believe that is all. I'm sure there are questions. I'm ready to answer.
This is really good. You can stop sharing so we can get bigger on the screen. They like that.
All right.
They like when we're bigger on the screen. I'm going to start with questions. I got questions.
Okay.
I too am a potential investor. So my questions, manufacturing, is it done here in the US?
So yes, well, most of our parts come from different sources. We have our aluminum framing that comes from Japan. We have a lot of our 3D printing that we do in-house, that's us. And then we have some of our hardware, and that comes from, that can come from any place. I would say everything's assembled here. Everything's assembled in Massachusetts. That's how we plan to, to proceed, especially as we're a benefit corp. We're going to have to be really mindful. We've had people come to us and say, we can make this for you in China for like $300. And I'm like, I'm well aware that you could. I'm well aware that you could. But it's not something that's sustainable. So we need to find that balance of how can we be profitable and sustainable at the same time. So we've been doing that.
Very good. The patent, is the patent also on the auto sync LED feature?
No, it's not. So that auto sync LED feature is just turning LED lights on and off, like as the plant grows. So
it's manually turning them on. It's not. Is it, yes. Is it turning them on at is there a sensor or something following the growth of the plant and then turning them on as they go?
No, not yet. But that is something that we're starting off with manual, and we want to move to the automated.
Okay.
The reason why we did not look into patenting that is we did have a discussion with our patent attorney, and he said, one, that would be hard. It's something that's difficult to patent because there are so many automated dimming solutions that are already out there. And 2, the other thing was, in order to even think about doing something like that, you still need to automatically train the plant to grow sideways. which is the patent that we have. So we feel like we have the umbrella patent for a system that uses something like that.
Got you. Makes sense.
Yep.
The other one, I don't think you said this anywhere, but I just want to make this clear. Like, you've got a global solution here.
That's right.
Like I mean, I want to make sure the community understands this, right? Because I love the point that you made is this is not just a cannabis play, right? That's kind of how you started and tested it out. But this is a global solution for growing and feeding countries. I think about, smaller countries that don't have a lot of resources, and this could be a good solution for them. It just, my mind, when I first saw this, obviously I did what everybody else is doing. I was like, oh, this is great for cannabis, right? And then I've been following you. So I've been watching your lives on LinkedIn. And after like the second live, I was like, wait a minute, Tawana, this is huge. Like, I was like, this is a big damn deal, right? And so it allowed me to think beyond just the obvious. And I've really been peeling back the layers of this as a potential investor, thinking, wow. And so I just want to say, congratulations in advance. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. And to know that this idea, I'm always in awe of entrepreneurs who have ideas that kind of stem out of just living, right? So you were traveling, the plants were getting too high, and you can't not travel, right? So you had to come up with a solution on how to train the plants. And most people wouldn't think that way. And so that tells me, from an innovation standpoint as a founder, I'm amazed at what version 14 will look like, right? You know what I mean? When I see what you've already done in this small, short window of time, essentially, right? I know 2016 sounds like a long time away, but it really hasn't been that long. What is version 14 going to look like? What solution is it going to solve? And I just want to say, I'm amazed, and I am so excited about the future of this organization. I really, really am. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Oh, thank you very much, Tawana. No, you're right. It is a global solution, and talking about the future and what we want it to look like, we really do see this in NASA shuttles. Like I said that at the beginning, and I'm sure people were like, yeah, like NASA. People like to throw out those crazy words, but we really see. I mean, people are going to space. Like that's what they're moving. People are shifting to Mars. There's lots of resources there. In order to do so, you're going to need food along the journey. The other thing that on Earth that I see this doing is helping with growing food in transit. One of the most expensive things that we do is we grow the food and then we ship it.
And we send it somewhere, right?
If we can grow while it's in transit, that would be great. But in order to do that, you need to have somebody that's either in the container. So that's not possible. You're gonna have to automate something like that.
Right.
So that's the other thing I'm thinking about, is when we start growing in transit and you need to automate that process, we're here to help with the plant shape and to make sure that it doesn't grow out of control. There's people out there that are helping with LEDs and helping with the watering and the solars, and we're partnering with those individuals. But we see this being used in a lot of different avenues. So it's just the beginning. I mean, it's been 6 years, but I still say it's just the beginning.
I see that. I mean, I do. As an investor, I see that. I see that even though it's been 6 years, I see the potential growth. This is just the beginning, because I can see it, and I don't have nearly as the brain you have, but I can see it. So, let's see what the people are saying in here. All right. Well, we got a lot of questions. Okay. Sarah says, what level of education or skill set would your ideal customer need to use this system?
Great question. It depends on the model. The Model 4E is really easy to use. That's just look at it and turn a wheel. Very simple. Beginner grower is the Model 4E. The Model 4 and the Model 6 is more for somebody who has grown already and they understand that they need some sort of assistance or some help to take them to the next level. So if there was an individual that's never grown before, I would not give them the Model 4 or the Model 6. I would say start off with the Model 4E. If you're looking to scale, that means you probably already, you've been growing, you've been making some money, and now you want to expand. That's a seasoned grower. And even the seasoned growers are like, wow, I didn't even think I didn't, like a guy said the other day, I didn't even know I could stack my mother plants. I'm like, no, now you can. And he's been doing it for years. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
William says, is there a lot of competition currently in your business right now? And you answered that. The answer was no. And he says, if not, do you think this could be a business you could compete well and or dominate against other companies doing the same thing? And I think you answered that question in your presentation with the two companies you compared yourself to. Do you want to add anything else to that?
So, I mean, there aren't any companies that are doing what we're doing. We're the only automated plant training solution I've seen globally. And right now people are doing it by hand or growing it short. So it's not, the competition has been more, I think, education, like trying to get people to understand that this exists and that this is another alternative. Excuse me, I apologize.
Cedric says, were comparisons with other methods based on getting those companies' reports, or did you test firsthand growing using the different methods?
So we looked at industry results. So we grew in our own lab, and then we also looked at, well, what are other people doing? We talked to our R&D partners to figure out, what are you doing? How long does it take you to grow? What's typical, so kind of surveying our target market was how we did it. And then we put together some numbers. One of the things that we always say to our customers and our potential clients is, you really need to see it in your facility, in your setup, to see what can it really do for you. Because every situation is different, every type of, different strains, different grow. If you're growing in soil, it's going to be one way. If you're growing hydroponically, it's going to be another way. So we really want to start that kind of learning process with our customers. And that's why that consulting side of things has been really helpful to start that marketing process, to get in the door, to start that conversation, to figure out what's the real solution.
Bethlehem says, are there any other subsequent costs after the initial setup, after the initial upfront product and servicing costs? How many growing cages does the upfront cost get you?
So that 192 that I showed in that return on investment, that was for 48 plants plus the servicing. And that's an upfront cost. Servicing for 1 year is included in that. If someone wanted to do an add-on, a year after year, that might be an additional 5 to 10 grand. Nothing close to the 192 initial investment. The units are designed for a warranty of 3 years. And they're made out of aluminum, really substantial parts, so that you don't have to do any replacement. But there's some maintenance, some minor maintenance and upkeep that you'll do. And that's another servicing and revenue channel for us, is if they want us to come in and do that, we can do that for them past that 1 year.
So I noticed you said that it's easy to get to the, 2.5 million and all of that and 75 million because most of the customers are buying more than one unit at a time. Mm-hmm. What's the average amount of units a customer would buy? 4 or 5, more than that?
More than that. I mean, if you're thinking about, we've got people that are looking at 160, 32. So, and those are our higher ends.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's the type of stuff where we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get production going. Like, we need capital coming in so that we can spit out 100 or more of these within, a 3 to 4 month lead time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they would need a lot. In order to help our customers with that upfront cost, because that could be a substantial amount. They'll see their return on investment, but how can we help them with that upfront cost? We're also talking to other institutions to help with financing. So we can bring that as a service. We also have a company that can finance you if you need some help. So that's another thing that we're looking into.
That's huge. Jerry says, is the cannabis flower applicable for or equal to hemp flower growing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So basically cannabis and hemp they grow the exact same. The only thing is the THC content. If you looked at two plants side by side, you wouldn't be able to look at them and say, that's cannabis, that's hemp. If you're growing for flower, when you're doing cannabis flower and hemp flower. So it works just the same. And one of the recent customers that we had, when I threw out that 30-ish number, that's a hemp customer.
Okay. Sarah says, as a part of your marketing strategy, do you plan to do industry conferences and events?
Yes, we did that pre-COVID. That was kind of how we got a lot of feedback on what we were trying to do, and that feedback was helpful because tweaked the design a few times because of it. But yes, we do plan to get back out there. The thing about cannabis specific industry trade shows is they're crazy expensive because anything that has cannabis on it, they 5x the cost. So what we would like to do is to start doing more of the vertical farming, the indoor farming, those types of trade shows that don't have as high of a cost to get in. I also am a public speaker. So what I like to do is try to speak at the events, not just have a booth there as well. So.
Good. Sarah also says, you mentioned being a founder of a previous company. What was the results of that venture?
So that was, we were doing you've probably seen something similar. We were growing one plant in a container for a home. It was a residential use only. Growing a plant, it had all the lights and it would control the plant in this one environment. And I was the CTO of that one. And I left that company in 2015 and took a break and decided to do my own thing. So I'm not quite sure exactly I know that they're no longer operating, but I don't know exactly how, the ins and the details behind it. But I wanted to take a break and do something that I thought was a little bit more unique because I saw that other people were doing similar things to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sharnetta says, how much does each unit cost? So that's the 192, and that includes the unit with 48 plants and servicing, right? Consulting and servicing.
That's right. That's for 48 units. On an individual, like unit to unit basis, it ranges. Right now, our Model 4E is around 1,400, and the Model 6, which is our largest unit, it is 5,200. But we do have, when you're buying multiple quantities of those, we do bring that price down.
So that 4E is very affordable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So that's the one, the 4E is the one that in the states where it's legal to grow cannabis, right? That's the home unit.
That's the home unit. Yep. That's for those people that, especially home growers, they have plant count limitations. Mm-hmm. This is one thing I didn't talk about. Home growers have plant count limitations. Like you can only grow 3 plants or 6 plants or 12 plants. So in order to make the most out of each individual plant, you got to grow them big. And this is a great alternative to being able to grow one plant as big as possible and stay legit, I say, because I know I've seen people out there, they're over their plant count limits.
I know a couple of people over their plant count limits too.
They're over their plant count limits. And and as one of the things that we were mindful about was like, we might have a lot of eyes on us. We got to be straight. Like we can't play around with our own plant count limits in our own space. Right. So, 6 plants and we grow them big and we stick to that. I can do 12, but I'm not even going to argue that. I'll stick with my 6.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I'll be sending some people your way for that 4E model.
Yeah.
Janine says, are you selling the products internationally as well?
Not yet. We are working with, we are talking to a European company that would like to be a reseller for us. And there's potential there, but we would definitely need to have more of our production capacity if we wanted to branch out. I would say that's more of a 3-year plan.
Anonymous says, appreciating that you are innovating in your company, it looks like that you are acquiring a lot of fixed assets. Are the fixed assets contributing to the debt on the balance sheet, or are there other reasons for the debt?
So I would say a lot of that has been, a lot of our expenses have been contractors. We don't have a brick and mortar location. So it's not that we're paying for lease spaces and things like that. We do want to acquire one. That is an eventual, expense. But a lot of it's been equipment for 3D printing and manufacturing. And it's been some sales and marketing and ad buy. And that's been the majority of where our expenses have gone. In regards to salaries, I didn't take a salary until July of 2021, and then had to pause that a few times because I'd rather make sure that money is going into, keeping us going, moving forward. So that's where a lot of our expenses have been.
Very good. Anonymous says, can some of this technology be applied to traditional Black farmers?
Yeah, this technology is good. I wouldn't say, I wish I could get more clarification on that question because I want to make sure that I'm answering his concern. When you say traditional, do you mean outdoor?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what anonymous, whoever was anonymous in that scenario, go ahead and clarify exactly what you mean. Are you talking about outdoor farming and Black farm? We know the problem with Black farmers losing their land, not being able to afford it. Is that what you're referring to? Is this a solution to help them? And then I'll go to the next one.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit if it helps.
Anonymous says yes, outdoor farming.
Okay, yeah. So this is for you could do, I would say, greenhouse. This is for situations where you've got like some sort of a height limitation. So there are people that grow in greenhouses, which they sometimes consider outdoor. It depends on who you're talking to. But it's not just for acreages of land and a bunch of trellis sitting on top of it. No, this is something that's mostly for indoor, including greenhouse.
Okay. Jerry says, how many types of conventional row crops using precision farming can be tasked to a potential connection, i.e. supply outsource partner?
How many types? I think that would be hard for us to give you a number on right now, because it could be in the hundreds. We have not yet had the chance to test all of those, so I would hate to say that it can do all of those 100. But we're going after what we call vining plants, which is a large, spectrum, fruiting plants that are also vining plants. So that could be a lot.
All right. William says, if an investor finds or buys land for you to build the building you need to get another LST started, would you and your colleagues strongly consider that in the US?
Yes.
William, you got something for him? That was a loaded question, William. Do I need to give y'all contact information to one another?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the type of thing that I like about the community is everyone's like, well, I can do this for you. And that definitely is helpful. So if you have these ideas, please bring them to me.
Awesome. Do you want to put your contact information?
Yeah. I can be reached at aja@trella.io, AJA@trella.io. And that's just TRELLA.io. You can email me directly.
Wonderful. Maurice says, you really did your homework. This is a no-brainer. Oh, hold on. This is a no-brainer. Why is there an initial price of $250 to invest, especially if you're getting started in investing and we are educating our own communities, building wealth? I know you would get more individuals in your community investing if you started with at least $50. So can I take that one just at the beginning of that one?
Sure.
So Nerese, what I'm seeing, so $100 is typically the minimum with equity crowdfunding. That's 99.5% of campaigns are no lower than 100. You see a few on some portals that go a little lower. And 250 is actually really low. It's lower than the average. So the average is about 350 across all campaigns. That's when you average in the ones that are the 500s and the 1000s. So 350 is actually the average number. And I'll let Aja talk to why she chose 250 opposed to 150 or 300. But that is just telling you all the, and y'all know I look at a lot of campaigns in a week's time. That's actually a very reasonable and affordable entry point based on what's out there now. So Aja, I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, it's in alignment with what you said. One of our board members, Abdo, he's also familiar with the space. And in his research, we looked at the numbers and we thought 250 was the sweet spot. At first we thought about 500, way too high. So we actually brought it down to 250 to try to get it in that sweet spot. Yep.
Yeah, very good. And this is one of the things also, you know, when I bring a campaign to us, it's important that there's enough time in the campaign. And I typically have this conversation with the founders also, depending on the timing of their campaign. If there's not enough time that we got a couple of disposable income paychecks under our belt, then it's not going to be beneficial for the founder to come to 10K Project, right? Because we are everyday investors, right? And so I always look at how much time is remaining in the campaign. You know, do we have at least 3 or 4 paychecks, right? Because not every check is a disposable income check, right? We're just gonna keep it real, right? And we want educated, healthy investors. We don't want you using grocery money, mortgage money, rent money. Asia don't want no calls in the middle of the night talking about, can I have my 250 back because the baby need Pampers? Like, that's not a thing, right? So I always look at, is it enough time that this community can make an impact, knowing that every one of our checks is not a disposable income check. And so if 50 is your sweet spot, then you've got 5 weeks, right? When's the campaign over?
Oh, the campaign's either August if we don't extend.
So August if they don't extend. So you got more than 5 weeks to stash 50 aside, right? And that's okay, because we got to do that sometime. Listen, we got to do that sometime. Stash 50 aside. You do that for 5 weeks. And then before the campaign deadline, you'll have the 250. And that's perfectly okay, because what we're doing in this community is we are building wealth by any means necessary, right? And nobody in here has to be a baller. What we're doing is we're giving you the tips and the access to make sure you're putting yourself in line to not only have the seat at the table, but to be able to respond to what that seat at the table is doing for you. And so there's no shame in putting $50 away for 5 weeks and saying, this is going to Trella Technologies, right? Don't nobody touch it. It's going in that blue envelope, right? and that's what this $50 is for. And you keep doing that. That's what we have to do. Now, as you're part of this community, you'll be learning other things, right? Other ways to make more disposable income, right? So we're doing the business buying seminars, and we're talking about real estate and all these other things where you can kind of get a little side hustle going so that you can earn more money to invest more. But we got to do what we got to do in the meantime. So, you know, let's think about that. Don't miss out on an opportunity because you think, oh, I don't have 250 right now tonight. That's okay. The campaign's open till August. There's no expectation that tonight you're going to do anything, right? The key is that you decide if this goes in your portfolio, right? And only you can decide that, right? I'm not a financial planner, so it's not my job to tell you to put what to put in your portfolio. But if you decide tonight that you want to add this to your portfolio, you've got a little bit of time to think about what is the strategy upon which you're going to make that happen. You know, this is a convertible note, so you want to make sure you read the terms of that and understand all that that means. And you can find all of that information on the campaign page as well. Okay. Hi, Miss Vivian. Miss Vivian says, Asia, I attended a lecture on cannabis a few years ago, hosted by the NC Agriculture and Technical State, North Carolina Agriculture, and Technical State University. Do you think about a university also testing your product, but you own the data, etc.? Also, a university in Africa, all giving feedback.
Yeah, we have definitely reached out to a few HBCUs. University of DC is an HBCU, and we've been trying to get in touch with some of the others. North Carolina A&T is on the list. One of the things that we definitely can do with them is do shared research and shared testing. Trying to get to only have data for us, that's difficult with universities. They like the IP. They're really attached to the intellectual property, but that's okay. I think that we can still work together to get that data and to use it for both purposes. So we are definitely looking in that direction. In regards to Africa and the Caribbean, if anyone has any connections there or have any ideas of ways that we could get into that space, we would love to. It's one of my, especially the Caribbean, it's one of the targets that I have. You know, like for example, Jamaica, I think maybe only like 10% of the food that they eat comes from something that was grown, in the country. So it's, yeah,
Wow.
the food is really controlled when it comes to the Caribbean, even more so than on the mainland. So it's in the US rather. So there's a lot, like we're needed. And we know we're not just needed for cannabis in the Northeast or in New England or in the US, we're needed for food all over the place. So if you have any ideas, please shoot them my way. You got our email, aja@trella.io.
I'm gonna connect you with. So we had a founder last year, one of our first founders. I think he may have been like the 6th or 7th one to pitch last year for us. The company is Caribbean Water Company, and he was focusing on the Caribbean as his market. And so he's already made some really good contacts. And so I'm going to connect you to him and see if you guys can talk, and I'm sure he'll be willing to share those connections with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. Jerry says, are you open to developing outsourcing to possibly 12-acre increments in collaborative benefits, global or local greenhouse complexes?
Yes, I would say I like all these types of ideas because I could always see a way that we can help. So if you think of it, please bring it to us. We want to explore all different types of opportunities, especially if it talks about growing food sustainably and trying to make sure that we're getting the food and the plant medicine into the hands of the people.
Nice. Anonymous says, what are your long-term goals, and is there an exit plan?
Yes. So our exit plan is in about five years to be acquired. That global distribution that we talked about might take a heavier lift than we can handle on our own. We may need to partner up or be acquired by somebody that already has that global distribution channel. So that's acquisition is our priority exit, is to go out in that way, or to merge.
Wonderful. Anonymous says, I understand that marijuana farming is trendy now, but what % of your business is dedicated to marijuana farming? So let's answer that question first before we go to the next one. See, as a 2-part.
So I think right now it's probably going to be either like a 60 to 70 majority on the cannabis side of things, or hemp, or hemp. And it is, I wouldn't say it's trendy because it's always been, even though there's always been an unregulated market. So the market isn't trendy. It's a very consistent and necessary market when it comes to plant medicine. The thing about cannabis, though, is that it will become more and more competitive, especially as more states come online and legalization changes. So we're trying to think ahead and thinking about those cannabis growers that are growing traditional methods now, but want to be able to be more efficient and stay competitive in a few years to come. So cannabis will be around for quite some time. I don't see that going away, but I do see us expanding into those other plants, especially those heavy protein based plants as well.
You think about when you said that, I thought everything you see around you is talking about plant-based this and plant-based that. That whole vegan market, plant-based diet market is blowing up like nobody's business.
Yeah.
That's a great vertical. It really is. The second part of Anonymous's question is, do you have plans to reduce or to move out of the marijuana farming in the future in the next 3 to 5? And you answered that. Jerry said, would like further conversations in order to maintain one feature of our mission, which is to operate businesses on an industrial/commercial scale to create jobs in the urban-centric communities. So it sounds like Jerry wants to reach out and have some conversations.
One of the things that we also talked about, because we assemble a lot of our units, we buy all the parts from multiple sources, and then we do a lot of the assembly and the 3D printing. That's a job creator for wherever we locate ourselves. And we would like to be in an urban setting where we can really tap into a large, diverse pool of people, and even have multiple assembly locations. I think the most sustainable way to do it would be able to have a Northeast division, a South division, a West Coast division, and that's where all of the individual units are supplied from. So if you're thinking about job creation projects or even buildings that we could use that we'd have to cut, make sure that we utilize a certain segment of the community. Yeah, we're interested in that as well.
Very good. And Ayana in the chat says, let us know when you're looking for land in the Caribbean for indoor farming. So Ayana, go ahead and shoot her an email.
Yeah, Ayana, let's talk.
Yeah, shoot her an email so that she can have your information when she's ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anonymous says, no, that makes a lot of sense. I can share the solution with other individuals looking to invest. Thanks for the clarification. I definitely will be investing.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Are there any other questions for Asia? These were great questions tonight. You guys always have great questions, but these were great questions tonight.
Yeah.
Any other questions? You guys are thinking of those final questions. I'm going to give my final remarks and then we will leave it to our founder to close us out. This was an amazing presentation. I know you were concerned you went over a little bit, but that was okay because you were so thorough, right? I mean, you answered all the questions, and that's the point. The point is to have the community have this one-on-one time with you so that they can understand the project in its entirety, right? And decide if they want this in their portfolio. And you did that thing tonight. So thank you very, very much. This was very well presented. And they're blowing up the chat. Fabulous job. Great presentation. I love this. So they are pleased as well.
Excellent. I'm glad.
Yeah, to the community, you know the assignment, right? You know why we're here. We're here to lift up our Black founders, to help them get the capital that they need to get their projects off to the next phase. And they need us, right? The days of going to the bank begging for money and giving up all your equity to VCs. We love VCs, we love angels, but sometimes they ask for a little too much, right? And so, I mean, that's just the reality of the job, right? They know they ask for too much. It's not a secret. But we're here given the opportunity to help this company reach some of their goals. And we saw the branches on the tree, right? They're the hurdles, right? We're getting them past those hurdles, right? And so, I want to thank Asia for coming to the 10K project and presenting this. I want to thank you for giving equity crowdfunding a chance, right? Because so many people don't do it. And we know it's a heavy lift, right? You running a full-time job and raising capital is not easy to do together. I talked to a founder today and he said, I had no idea it was this much work. I don't know if we can keep this going, right? Because I got to run the business. And so it's a lot of work. And so for founders that find the balance, I'm always appreciative because if you guys didn't come here, many of us would not have an opportunity to get an early seat at the table and invest in businesses at this early stage. We just wouldn't have a chance. And so I'm very appreciative when founders come despite how hard it is. And so as community, you guys know, do your due diligence, right? That's what I always tell you, do your due diligence, make a decision. But if you don't do anything else tonight, share the heck out of this campaign, right? We put the link in the chat throughout the evening. We can drop it in there again for you so you can be right there on the end. Share this campaign. The success of equity crowdfunding campaigns only happens when people see it. And so that is why we're here, not just to see it ourselves, right? We kind of get the first look, right? But the goal is for us to share it with everyone that we then know, and hopefully they then share it with everyone they know so that the eyes can get on the campaign. The people will make a decision for it themselves if they want to invest, but they can't even do that if they don't see it. And so, that's where we come in. Share this campaign, please, so that this founder can reach and her team can reach their goal and literally change the world. Like when I say that tonight, that really means something tonight, right? Change the world means something all new when you talk about Trella Technologies. I mean, we're talking about potentially feeding nations. If that's not changing the world, I don't know what the heck is. So this has been, I agree, Johnny, this has been excellent. Absolutely an excellent evening. Asia, hold on. No, you can't take it home yet. We got 2 more questions.
Okay.
Johnny says, fellow former Bostonian here, Wentworth Institute. If available, where can I find info about the FIB app you created?
The FIB app.
Is it FIB app or FIB app? Or do you just mean the app that's used to support the technology, Johnny? Let me know if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, if you go to,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, if you go to Trella.io, you'll find more information on technology. The app is available to customers, so if you're not a customer, you wouldn't be able to really get into it. But if you have any questions, one of the things that we do on a weekly basis is we're doing weekly lives on YouTube and LinkedIn every Tuesday at noon. We also record them. So if you, Johnny, maybe during one of those lives, we can showcase the app, show people what that looks like. That might be a good idea for us I'm going to put that down right now.
And the lives are really, really helpful. Like I said, I've been watching them for the last 3 weeks now, and they've been really informative. I actually recommend all of you jump on 1 or 2 of those lives and just follow the project because it's really informative. Norris trying to get into one of those, I know y'all, I love this community. Norris is putting her bid in for the North Carolina region one. She said, I'm willing to be a part of the team here in North Carolina when you're ready, okay?
All right.
I know that's right.
Nice.
Oh, goodness. All right, that's all the questions we have. Asia, go ahead and bring us home, dear. What do you want this community to know?
I want you to know I'm thankful, so grateful that you exist, that there's a space for us to share our thoughts and to be supported by the community. Like I mentioned, that timeline with the leaves, every little bit that comes in, it's fuel. It really does keeps the company going. We appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing your kind words. All of that stuff is extremely helpful. I don't even know how you can't really, it's more than the money. It really is. So if you have any questions, definitely make sure that you put them in WeFunder. That way everybody can see the response to the questions that you ask. Definitely suggest that you check out a live. And like Tawana said, sharing it. I mean, these algorithms are fierce. And it's hard to really get out there in social media and to show what you're doing unless you have a lot of ads and you're pushing it. So all the shares are extremely helpful. So thank you for your time. Thank you for considering an investment in our company. We'd be thrilled to have you. Thank you.
Very good. And I stand corrected. Norris is a he. He corrected me.
Gotcha.
Got you. So he is not playing. He's trying to
All
get
right.
his spot. All right. My apologies.
I'll look out for you, Norris. Thanks.
Right. All right, everyone. This has been another great Tuesday night. Thank you all for giving us your time. I'm a firm believer that nothing matters more than the time we give to others. And you guys did that tonight. And thank you so very, very much. And again, sis, congratulations in advance because you got this. You got this.
Thank you, Tawana. Appreciate it.
Blessings.
All right. Mad peace, mad love. Thank you.